When Nintendo announced that the Virtual Boy was coming to the Switch, complete with its own replica headset, the internet lit up with threads of shock, surprise, and some scorn over resurrecting Nintendo's greatest failure. While Nintendo did embarrass themselves in 1995 with a rare flop among a sea of smash hits, if you turn the dial back to 1985, you'll find one that was even worse. R.O.B the Robot. According to gaming lore, the Robotic Operating Buddy was invented to resurrect the gaming industry, which we were told was dead, buried, and never coming back. When the NES arrived on October 18, 1985, this Trojan Horse woke everyone up, made us realize that we really did love video games, and here we are today still playing them. All because of this little guy. But that story isn't true. If you're looking at things from the point of view of Nintendo in America in 1985, you're not seeing the whole picture. While it's true that the original NES configuration included the Robotic Operating Buddy, R.O.B for short, the Zapper Light Gun, Gyromite, and Duck Hunt, and was popular enough to turn a profit, this was not some predestined genius plan. You have to go back in time and across the sea to find out how our good buddy came to be. Before the NES came to the Western world, it was known in Japan as the Family Computer. First released in July 1983, it quickly became the most successful TV game machine of its time. Nintendo expanded the functions of the Family Computer with several devices: a tape recorder for saving game data, a keyboard attachment for basic programming, and a disk drive, all released within the first 3 years of the system's life. And they wouldn't stop there. Nintendo's ascent coincided with the 1985 World Expo in Tsukuba, Japan. The theme was Science and Technology for Man at Home. Many exhibits featured advanced robotics meant for personal use. All the big names in Japanese industry lined up to show their most ambitious creations: Sony, NEC, Toshiba, and Mitsubishi, to name a few. Nintendo, however, was not invited, seen as a mere toy maker, not a serious technology company. Nintendo created a device to show that a toy company could create amazing things too: the Family Computer Robot. Designed by Gunpei Yokoi, this little guy used technology similar to the Zapper Light Gun, which had been on sale in Japan since February 1984. Both used light sensors to read flashes on the TV screen that registered actions. For the Zapper, that was a hit or miss. For the robot, the flashes allowed for movement. The Family Computer Robot and 2 games were ready for release while Expo 85 was still ongoing. A detailed ad campaign hit the airwaves, featuring celebrities, futuristic costumes, and sets that went far beyond usual game commercials. The robot and the first game, Robot Block, went on sale in Japan on July 26, 1985. Both were dead on arrival. There were a few reasons. First, the cost. The robot sold for 9,800 yen, and the block set 4,800 yen. 14,600 yen in total, almost as much as the Family Computer itself. Second, the robot was slow, clunky, and not fun. Robot Block involved picking up colored blocks and rearranging them into new patterns in as few moves as possible. There wasn't any on-screen verification. Everything was based entirely on the honor system. Lastly, Robot Block had to be produced in equal numbers to the robot, since it was the only compatible game. Unsold copies languished on store shelves, while other games flew right off. Robot Gyro arrived on August 13, 1985, about 2.5 weeks after Robot Block. The game was a little more interactive. The robot picked up tops, called gyros, that were placed on spinners, then balanced these on blue and red actuators connected to Controller 2. These pushed the B and A buttons, moving corresponding blue and red beams on screen. This allowed Professor Hector to move and disarm dynamite set off by Smicks, little green monsters that make trouble. Robot Gyro sold less than Robot Block. At least with the first game, there was some interest in the new accessory, but very few who already had the robot were willing to risk getting burned again. It didn't move many new robots out the door either. Production and future development was halted. Many copies of Robot Gyro were left unassembled. Retail showed how bad the situation was. By September 1985, the robot started seeing steep discounts and advertised as having 100 units in stock. By the end of the year, the combined price dropped to about 5,000 yen, making the robot essentially free. Some stores shrewdly sold the discounted set with the family computer hardware and Super Mario Bros., both of which were often sold out and difficult to find. Some retailers simply gave up selling the robot altogether and decorated the store with them. You might even find some in Japan today, watching over everyone for over 40 years. In the United States, Nintendo had been preparing the American family computer, what we all know as the NES. Existing games from 1983 and 84 were reviewed to determine if Americans would take to them. The hardware went through several redesigns in 1984 and 85, and even had a few name changes. The NES was once called the AVS, Advanced Video System. When the robot first arrived at Nintendo of America, Game Master Howard Phillips gave it a play test. It took a long time to set up, was very loud, often stopped working, and overall didn't garner much excitement from the staff who gathered round. But the robot looked cool, and Nintendo of America had no choice but to sell what they were given. At the 1985 Summer CES, the so-called video robot appeared in print materials and on t-shirts. The imagery helped position Nintendo as a leap beyond Atari. Reviews of Nintendo's CES exhibit mirrored each other, cut and pasted from Nintendo's own brochures. However, it seems nobody actually played with one. That's probably for the best. Focus groups that tried the robot hated it. Nobody had a positive word about the little guy. It seemed like the same course of events in Japan would play out in America too. There really was no option for Nintendo of America other than to take what they'd been sent and just run with it. The robot was given an American name, R.O.B, the Robotic Operating Buddy. He served as the face of early NES promotional materials, in print and on TV. Most importantly, he was included with every NES system sold in 1985. The two games were renamed Stack Up and Gyromite. In order to make use of unused Japanese components, family computer circuit boards were used inside the cartridges. These were smaller than what the NES used, requiring an adapter. Gyromite, the worst-selling of the two robot games, was included with the NES. While both games were fully in English, there was no effort to localize the titles. Putting Gyromite or Stack Up into the NES probably confused new owners, with title screens that read Robot Gyro and Robot Block. Regardless, R.O.B was there to greet Americans and introduce the world's most advanced video game system. The NES went on sale in New York City on October 18, 1985. The package included the control deck, 2 controllers, the zapper, 2 game packs, Duck Hunt and Gyromite, and R.O.B at a recommended price of $179. Later, the control deck was sold separately for $99. Game packs retailed for about $30, and the zapper sold on its own for $20. That meant our good buddy was, in essence, free. Most retailers sold under MSRP, as low as $139, again showing how little value the robot really had. Despite the massive push R.O.B received, gamers just didn't take to him. Instead, it was Mario who was responsible for the NES's good fortunes. Super Mario Bros. Was consistently the best-selling game in the first 9 months the NES was on the market. Stack Up, however, was always at the bottom of the list. In June 1986, Nintendo shuffled their product line. Super Mario Bros. Was bundled with the control deck, sold for $99, and officially started the nationwide NES boom. The R.O.B and Zapper configuration was renamed the Deluxe Set, then faded away as the remaining stock sold out. R.O.B was also sold separately for $50 in limited amounts. A few R.O.Bs and games went beyond the US, but not many. By 1988, most Nintendo fans had no idea R.O.B had ever existed. Looking back at the success of the NES and the family computer, it's easy to tie that to peripherals. But a modern-day search of the robot games shows what really went down in 1985, like rings on a tree. Online auction searches in Japan show Robot Block and Robot Gyro often together for about $30 US, or 10 to 15 separately, sometimes going unsold, thanks to massive overprinting and low demand on the collector's market. In contrast, Stack Up in the US costs over $1,000 if you want all the necessary parts, showing how few copies existed due to almost no demand in 1985, and Nintendo shipping the bare minimum to pretend R.O.B had support. Gyromite is more common, for sure, but it ain't $15. In recent years, R.O.B has made a comeback, appearing in both the Mario Kart and Smash Bros. Series as a playable character, while making cameos in WarioWare and a few other games. R.O.B also makes for a more colorful NES mythology, that video games were a dead industry and only a toy robot could somehow bring it back. Even though Atari never stopped making games, sold over 1 million 2600s in 1985, and the supposed crash-inducing games, Pac-Man and E.T., were reprinted in 1985 and 1986. Nintendo's arcade games, really just NES games in coin-op form, were very popular in 1984 and 1985. No kids in the 80s ever thought the gaming industry was in danger of going away, and Nintendo called the NES a video game repeatedly, while we were told they used R.O.B to disguise the NES as a toy. But that's another story for another time. I guess it's just the Nintendo way, turning lemons into lemonade, reusing things, even total failures, to get the maximum value out of them. Just like how the Virtual Boy, Nintendo's more famous failure, is making a comeback. And hey, since we're at it, let's see a smaller, faster, Bluetooth-enabled R.O.B for the Switch. Throw in the Zapper too while you're at it. That would be great fun.